Hello everyone, this is Chris. I'm sitting in the car at a road station on the way home from work, and it's pretty hot. I can't put the engine on because you won't be able to hear me, so we've got about until the car gets oppressively hot before I have to stop. This isn't my first attempt to do a YouTube thing. I've had several YouTube accounts for a number of years and have very few subscribers for any of them, but we're going to try again. So anyway, my name is Chris Ward, and I'm a writer by night and early morning, and by day I'm a teacher in Japan. And so today I'm going to answer the very basic question. So you want to write a book? This is something that I do actually know about because I've written about 50 or so. And to get you started, this isn't going to be all super technical. There are other YouTube channels that do that. There's the ones that will have the little kind of books flashing up and all the lights and all the, like little cute graphics and music. This isn't going to be that. This is basically me talking to you and about my experience. And basically, if you want to start if you want to write a book, all you need really is an idea. It doesn't have to be a big idea, it doesn't have to be a small idea, just an idea. And you go from there, and you need something to write with, or a method of writing. And these days that can be anything. So you can start with literally a surface and some kind of liquid to write with. So you could literally write on a wall in blood, although that would be a little bit weird. I wouldn't recommend it. You can start. I used to, when I was a child, I used to write on a piece of paper with a pencil or a pen. Don't do that anymore because my handwriting's so terrible I can't read it 6 months later when I come back to see what it says, plus it makes my wrists hurt. So my preferred medium is Word on my laptop, but a lot of people these days do dictation, or you can use your phone. I've written probably my best-selling series, the Slim Hardy Mystery series, under the name of Jack Benton. I wrote that on my iPhone. Every single one of the 10 or 11 books that there are, I wrote them on iPhone notes, which wasn't the easiest thing. I could only sort of do the little thumb thing, but it shows that you can. I prefer to work on a word processor, but the way that you write gives your books a certain tone or style, because it will dictate how fast you write. It will dictate the kind of feeling you have as you write. So for example, when I'm writing on my phone, I tend to be a lot more brief. Like, I don't have so much description because it's a pain basically to write on my phone. So the narrative style is a lot more clipped. Whereas when I write on a word processor, because I can touch type, something I learned at school, very much recommend it as a skill. It's very, very important. Perhaps the best touch typing skill, best writing skill I have. If that will dictate how the words come out. So the one reason I continue to write my mystery series on my phone is because I want the books to have a consistent tone. The same thing if you write a certain time of day. Like I write mostly early morning. I get up at 4 o'clock every day, and then I'll do sort of my bits and bobs. I'll go jogging, or basically waste some time on my phone, and then I'll start writing about 5:30, and I write for an hour and a half if I get that much time before the wife and child and cat wake up. And if I write in the afternoon, like if I get a bit of sneaky time at work, or if I write in the evening, it's a lot different because my brain's not as sharp. I'm sort of tired. When I'm first thing in the morning, I'm fresh. I'm just on it. It's great. But anyway, I digress. Basically, you need an idea and you need to start writing. And I would suggest you don't tell anyone that you're writing a book. You should just start writing the book and keep it secret. Like I tell people, or they know. I don't openly tell them, but they know because that's what I do. I get my money from it. It's all my books all over the internet. But if you've never written a book before, my suggestion would just be to do it quietly, on your time. Don't tell anyone about it. Don't ask for ideas. Every single person you mention it to will have an opinion, and it will probably not be an opinion that you want to hear. Something that you'll notice is people know you as a certain way, and if you deviate from that norm, then it upsets the balance of your relationship. So they will begin to see you differently. So if you suddenly, like for example, you suddenly take up bodybuilding when you've never done anything except go to the pub, people are going to start seeing you differently, and a lot of the time they will have a negative reaction. Some people might be positive, but a lot of people have a negative reaction to this change because they will perceive that you are moving away from them into a new social environment, for example. So it might not necessarily be true, and if you end up making a career out of it, a lot of the people will just kind of accept it. But at first, my advice would just be to your book is for you, write it for you, don't show it to anyone, don't tell anyone about it. Find yourself a time of the day and when you can do it, and you can be alone and quiet with no distractions. I mean, some people can write in the coffee shop or whatever, some people can write at work. Well, I need quiet. I need people to leave me alone. I don't want music on, I don't want distractions. And it's up to you. If it's on your lunch hour, if it's 20 minutes after work before you go home, if it's like early morning before everyone gets up, find yourself a time that works for you. And if you can, make it a routine. Like, I don't like to miss a day. If I miss a day, it upsets me, especially if I'm in a book. Just missing one day can put me back in the story. It can take me out of the story. And I like to be writing every day until that book's done, if possible. Worst things are blimmin' holidays, when you're away for a week and you have to come back and you can't remember what you're at. Like, if possible, I'll take my laptop and do a bit while I'm doing, even 20 minutes a day will keep me in the flow. And that's what you want. You want your regular time, and you want to do it consistently, if possible, every day until it's done. And on top of that, though, try not to put pressure on yourself. Don't say, I have to do it in a certain length of time. I have to, I've got to finish it by Christmas, and don't put pressure on yourself. And don't also, especially if it's your first book, don't worry so much about what kind of book it is or the genre it's in or anything like that. That's the kind of thing that people that write for money, like me, have to think about, because we're trying to sell the book. When you've never written a book, all you want is to write the book. You don't want any other outside. I see people on the internet, on the Facebook pages, saying, "Oh yeah, I've just started my first book. How do I market it?" It's like, well, write it first. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Write it, and if it's any good, which to be fair, it probably won't be. The first 3-4 books of mine are not worth reading. I've never even read them over again. But you've got to get some miles on the clock if you're going to write a book, and if you're going to write potentially to make money out of it, or commercially, you're going to sell it on the internet, which is very easy to do, very easy to put it on the internet. It's not very easy to sell it, but publishing it online is once you know what you're doing, it's 15 minutes from here's your book to here it is on Amazon, whatever. It's very, very easy. But you want to get the book first, and find your quiet time, and then all you need is your idea. It doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be small. It's an idea. You've got your character, you've got your situation, and you've got to get them from A to B, and you've got to put some roadblocks in the way. And that's basically it. That's the nuts and bolts of a story. You've got your character, and he's got to get from this point to this point, and this point could be either a physical journey, like he's got to get from this town to this town, and there's like I don't know, like an earthquake in the way, or like a dinosaur horde or whatever, and or a serial killer. Or he's got to grow from this mindset, which will generally be kind of an insular, he doesn't really know anything about the world, to this mindset where he is more knowledgeable about his situation, and he's completed a journey of kind of self-discovery. But the most important thing is to put a few roadblocks in the way. This is what they call conflict, and this is important. But my advice to you would not be to worry about what that conflict is at first. My advice to you would be to just start writing the story. And if you just writing the story, no pressure, just start writing it and see where it goes. Like, the vast majority of my books were written with no clear endpoint in mind when I started them. One or two did, and there are others that I plotted. That's a different way of writing, and lots of people do that, but you don't have to. You can just start with your situation, and then you start with the very bare bones of it. You've got your character or your family or your town or whatever, and then you flesh it out bit by bit, and you start to show what your main character is doing, where he's going, who he's interacting with, and gradually he will move, and it will happen kind of naturally if you don't try and force it. If you're writing a story because like life is a story. We start when we're born and we end when we die, and it's a natural thing. You'll start writing it, and you'll find that you're getting through the story, and eventually you'll get to the end. And if it ends up a 900-page mess where all he does is like go to the bakery and back, and manages to find enough change to buy his caramel donut or what have you, that's still gonna be 900 pages of extremely valuable writing experience that will help you become a better writer. You can hone it, and you can tweak it all later on. The main thing is to get your miles in, get your hours in, get your time, get your books written, because very, very few people, of course there are exceptions, there's always exceptions for everything, very few people will write a book. It's their first time they've ever tried to write a book, and it's brilliant, it's a bestseller. It does happen, but it doesn't happen very often. It's very rare. Most people, sort of jobbing writers that work for money, they'll write like 5 or 6 rubbish books, then the 6th one will be kind of okay, and they'll publish it, and then they'll sell a few, and then they'll write another one which will sell a few more, and then they'll write a turkey which won't sell anything, and they'll learn a lot from writing that turkey to not do that the next time, so the next one they write will be better. And it's a gradual process, and you're never going to feel like you've figured it out. You're always going to be like, every book I write, I'm like, oh, this is rubbish, and then you finish it and you're like, oh, it's all right, and the reviews are quite good, and it's probably not as bad as I thought it was. But that's another thing that we need to talk about, is don't be too self-critical. The very most important thing when you're first starting out and you're writing is to just write the story. Don't worry about whether your writing is good or not. Just sit there and write it. It doesn't matter if you're like, oh, I'm not putting in enough description, or my dialogue is stunted. It's the most important thing is to just get the story down. Just write it. and you can fix it later, or you can learn from it and improve. The most important thing is just to write the story. Like the first few books I wrote, I didn't even know I didn't, British schooling system, I didn't learn grammar at school. I learned grammar when I was 25, when I trained to be an English teacher. I didn't even know what passive tense was. When I did an English degree without knowing what a passive tense was. It's just mind-blowing, like how I could not have known that. I'd read sort of 600 books or whatever by that point, and I'd never learned what like a present perfect tense was, or a modal verb was. I didn't know, and then suddenly you put names to it and you're like, oh yeah, perhaps that shouldn't go here. You go back and, oh, well, perhaps I couldn't do that, or perhaps I could try writing a story without using this type of expression, or I could start, these are the nuts and bolts. You'll need it, but you'll learn it later on. The most important thing is to start your story and get your story down, and just write it. Don't keep going back, don't keep fixing it, don't keep tweaking it, because all you'll do is you'll spend 6 months writing 5 pages. And what you want to do, if you're going to write for 6 months, you want to write for 200 pages or 300 pages. You don't want to spend all your time tweaking your first 2 chapters. Get your text down. And the most important thing, something you will struggle to do at first, because it was I was 18 before I finished the story. You will struggle to get to the end. This is something that, as you get more experienced, you'll be able to deal with. You'll know that the first 30,000 words, or basically the first third of the book, will be like rocket fuel. Just boom, there it is. And then you'll hit a wall, and you'll be like, okay, that was easy, and now what happens now? And a lot of writers will stop at that point. I have a folder of 30,000 word beginnings. I've got, must be 10, 12, some of them were pretty good, and put them in a folder, forget about them. But when you get a bit more experience, you realize that you have to there's a rocket takes off, and then you got your little sort of tail off, where you've got to you've got to just battle through that bit. You just got to write that bit, and that'll be the middle section. And then you've got your landing in towards the ending, and that is great. That's just that goes straight in. But a lot of people do the takeoff, and then they get stuck, and they just crash straight back down, and they can't finish it. Depending on how you want to, like sort of analyze it, you could just say you get stuck in orbit, floating around and around, unable to finish the story, whatever. But this is how much time are we on here? Let's just check. Whoa, okay, a couple more minutes, and then we'll get rid of this one, whack this up online and see what happens. Basically, you want to one last thing I'll mention is that when you write, you want to have your time, and you set time and however long you can, and what you're looking for, which most writers will understand the term, is what we call flow state. And this is when you no longer are thinking about the action that you're doing. I get this when I'm teaching sometimes. I'll be up in front of the class and suddenly I'm not really there. I'm just autopilot, basically. And it's the same with writing. For me, it usually starts about 20 minutes in. And if I don't get disturbed, which is rare, I'll get 20 minutes in, then the next hour is just gone, just a blur. And that's when the best words come out. You'll get your 1,000, 2,000 words, just boom, like that. But the first 20 minutes, it'll be quite difficult. You'll be like, thinking about it. What should I say here? And then you'll hit flow state, and you're suddenly, boom, you're in the book. And the longer flow state goes on, the quicker you'll write. If you're lucky, you get 2 or 3 hours of that. You're just going to churn them out. You're going to be like one of those little organ grinders, cranking out the books. But even if you can only get half an hour of flow state when you do it, that's when your best writing will happen, and that's what you're looking for. But don't think about it. It's just a natural thing. Start writing. Try and concentrate. If you have trouble with distractions, that's another thing I'll add real quick. One thing that works for me, because I do procrastinate, I'm not like a 5 hours on Instagram type, but I will waste 20 minutes on Facebook Reels and damn it, where's that time gone? Is one thing you can do, if you can't blank the internet, move your phone into another room, Put a timer on, set a timer, even 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15. I usually do 15. And you're not allowed to do anything until that timer goes off. When that timer goes off, then you can go and waste 20 minutes on Facebook Reels. But you do your 15 minutes, and then that's got to be your writing. And just trust me with this. If you do that, you will get books written. But let's just recap, because I kind of forgot to check my notes, what I was going to say. Okay, most important thing is have some idea that you want to write about. Have your time to write it. Don't tell anyone about it. Don't worry about it. Just write it. And I'm sure we've missed a few, but write without distractions. Set a timer, set your time, and off you go. Alright, well, I've been Chris Ward, also known as Jack Benton, Benton Ford, Michael White, Michael S. Hunter, CP Ward, and a few others that I can't remember or don't want to tell you. A Million Miles from Anywhere Publishing is my name for my publishing house. This is my YouTube channel for it. I will bring you more videos soon. There might be a button up here somewhere or over here called subscribe or like. If you click it, then hopefully in about 10 years I might make some money. And I hope you found this useful. If you did, watch it again or tell your friends. Right, thank you. See you again.